Schema, you ready?
Ima, you ready?
Are you ready?
Can you hear us? Is she on
You
mute?
gotta unmute your mic.
Unmute your mic.
You gotta unmute. There she go. Go ahead, speak again.
I see Haish Zamir in the back.
We hear you.
King Shalom, we hear you.
I'm ready. Can you all hear me?
We hear you.
King.
Okay. All right. Well, first and foremost,
Can you hear us?
I can hear you fine. His law, can you hear?
Unmute your mic.
My mic is unmuted.
Yes, I can hear.
Oh, okay, great.
You gotta turn off your YouTube in the back. Go ahead, speak again. If you got YouTube.
Zamir in the back.
We hear you.
King Shalom, we hear you.
Ooh, what is that? Okay. I'm ready. Can you all hear me?
We hear you.
King.
Okay.
You got two devices on?
Can you hear us? First and foremost,
Can you hear us?
You gotta turn one of the devices on.
his law, can you hear?
Unmute your mic.
Yes, I can.
Anyway, I don't know. I'm not sure.
You can hear me. Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Loud and clear. Go ahead.
Praise the Most High Yah. First and foremost, we'd like to give thanks to the Almighty. All glory, honor, and praise to the Creator of all life and all that sustains life, the eternal Holy One of our fathers, Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yisrael. Torah Rabbah, Almighty El Shaddai, for all that you provide for us. I would like to thank and give honor to Prince Yeriel, the head of our community, D.C.B, Hebrew Israelite Congregation, and to Chief Uziel Ben Levi for this opportunity to speak before the Most High's people. And to all our elders, leaders, and all of our good brothers and sisters in D.C.B main body, and those online who are working and dedicating their lives to uplift. What is going on? Excuse me. Dedicating their lives to uplift and help our people to be successful in our best life through Torah. I say in the words of our forefathers, Shalom Aleichem. If I can be heard, it's kind of new to me. So please bear with me. Can I be heard? I don't hear anyone. Today we will be reading the book of Esther, Hadassah, chapters 1 through 10, starting at verse 1. His law.
Hallelujah. Now it came to pass in the days of Havared. This is a reign from India even unto Ethiopia. of his kingdom, which was in Shushan the castle. In the 3rd year of his reign, he made a feast unto all his princes, the army of Persia and Media, the nobles and princes of the provinces, being before him. When he showed the riches of his glorious kingdom and the honor of his excellent majesty, many days, even 180 days. And when these days were fulfilled, the king made a feast unto all the people that were present in the castle, both great and small, 7 days in the court of the king's palace. There were hangings of white, cotton, boards of fine linen on a pavement of green and white and onyx marble. They gave them drink vessels of gold, vessels being one from another, of the king. And the drinking was according to law, none compelled. The king appointed officers of his men in the royal house, which belonged to King.
I'm sorry, we
On
can't.
the 10th day, heart of the king, he commanded Haman. Oh, you can't.
No, there's a really bad echo or feedback.
And breaking up.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. So should I start over?
No, go where you left off.
Okay. Verse 11. To Vashti the queen be king with a crown royal, to show the peoples of the princes her beauty, for she was favored upon. But the queen Vashti refused to come at the king's command. Was the king very wroth and anger burned him. Then the king said to the wise men who knew the time, for so was the king all that knew law and judgment.
Okay.
And the next unto
Let's
him
stop here.
was Hoshena.
Let's stop here. You know, this whole story brings to mind quite a few things. It touches on a lot of issues. It touches on relationships between spouses, the responsibilities of people in power or people that have authority, and how the different issues that they deal with and how they influence people, as well as how people look up to people that are in positions of authority. And when I'm looking at Vashti and I see how she has refused in public, and it's more so in public not to go before the king as he asked her to, it brings to mind the relationship between spouses and how we need to be a little more understanding as to how we deal with each other, especially out in public, because no one wants to be embarrassed. And if there are issues that are at hand, some things need to be done in private instead of being done out in the public where everybody can see. And because Vashti is a queen, she carries a lot of authority and she carries a lot of influence. And because of those influences, the people are watching her closely, as they would be watching anyone that is in authority. When something happens on the job, or in other situations where you have people who are supposed to be in leadership or have a guiding position, and they're not doing the things that they're supposed to do, is quickly seen. So this Vashti did not consider that maybe could have been another way for her to be able to not have to come to that particular event. Maybe it was something else that she could have done. But she didn't do that. And as a result, here we have a problem. Continue, my sister.
Verse 18. And the next unto him was Hoshina, Shetha, Admatha, Tarshish, Meres, Marsena, and Memucan, the 7 princes of Persia and Media, who saw the king's face and sat in the kingdom. What shall we do unto the queen Vashti according to law? For as much as she have not done the bidding of the king Ahasuerus by the chamber, and answered before the king and the princes, but also to the princes and all the peoples that are in all provinces of King Ahasuerus. This deed of the queen will come abroad unto all women, to make their husbands contemptible in their eyes, and it will be said, the king Ahasuerus commanded the queen to be brought in before him, but she came not. This will the prince and Media who have heard of the princes, so will they arise in contempt and wrath.
Okay.
If it please.
Okay, so as I said, Queen Vashti has caused the commotion inside of the court. Inside, everybody is worried about how their wives and their spouses are going to behave. But we can also look at this on both sides of the spectrum for sisters and brothers. People will be saying, oh, well, you know, she got away with it, or he got away with it, or wow, look at how he's treating her. Yeah, well, maybe we don't have to give her respect, or maybe we don't have to give him respect. And so these are things that we can glean from this story so far. Go ahead, my sister.
Verse 19, if it please the king, let there go forth a royal commandment from him, and let it be written among the laws of the Persians and the Medes, that it not be altered, that Vashti come no more before King Ahasuerus, and that the king give her royal estate unto another that is better than she. And when the king's decree, which he shall make, shall be published throughout all his kingdom, great though it be, all the wives will give to their husbands honor, both to great and small. And the word pleased the king and the princes, and the king did according to the word of Memucan. He sent letters into all the king's provinces, into the province according to the writing thereof, and to every people after their language. The man should bear rule in his own house and speak according to the language of his people.
Okay, so Vashti has lost her position. Her behavior has caused her to lose everything. She's been put aside. So everybody knows about it. It's all over. It's a very sad situation, because with a little forethought and some concern for someone else other than yourself at the time could have saved her from losing her position. And all of these other things that is going on her behalf right now could have probably been avoided. Kamashi, continue, my sister.
Chapter 2. After these things, when the wrath of King Ahasuerus was assuaged, he remembered Vashti and what she had done, and what was decreed against her. Then said the king's servant that ministered unto him, let there be sought for the king young virgins fair to look on, And let the king appoint officers in all the provinces of his kingdom, that they may gather together all the fair virgins unto Shushan the castle, to the house of the women, unto the custody of Haggai, the king's chamberlain, keeper of the women, and let the ointments be given them. And let the maiden that pleaseth the king be queen instead of Vashti. And the king and the thing pleased the king, and he did so. There was a certain Jew in Shushan the castle, whose name was Mordecai, the son of Jair, the son of Shimei, the Benjamite, who had been carried away from Jerusalem, who Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, had carried away. And he brought up Hadassah, that is, Esther, his uncle's daughter, for she had neither father nor mother. And the maiden was of beautiful form and fair to look on. When her father and mother were dead, Mordecai took her for his own daughter. So it came to pass, when the king's commandment and his decree was published, and many maidens were gathered together unto Shushan the castle, to the custody of Haggai, that Esther was taken into the king's house, to the custody of Haggai, keeper of the women. And the maiden pleased him, and she obtained kindness of him, speedily gave her ointments with her portions. And the 7 maidens who were meet to be given her out of the king's house, and advanced her and her maidens to the best place in the house of the women.
Okay, sister, let's stop right there. All right. So the first thing that we're noticing in this chapter is Mordecai, a Benjamite, was carried away from Jerusalem into the captivity here in this land that he's in now. And these things happened between 486 and 465 AD. Now, Mordecai was Hadassah, Esther's cousin, and her parents had passed away. And so he raised her as his own. Now, at this time, we're not dealing with other issues, but we're dealing with the fact that an opportunity has arisen. And this opportunity is an opportunity for our people to gain a position that can cause us to have opportunities for ourselves in this land that is not our own. Similar to what we're dealing with now here in America and other places. I ask myself a lot of times when we have our election system and it's time for us to vote for people, who do we have in office that represents us, who cares for us? And at this time, Mordecai, to me, seems to be thinking ahead, thinking in advance to see what's available for us to have some kind of authority in this system. So he puts his cousin forward for a position like very high. The queen, I think she kind of rules over quite a bit. So it's very interesting to see that Mordecai was thinking along these lines. And this is a man who basically just sits outside of the gate and watches as people come in and out of the king's chambers. So go ahead, my sister.
Verse 10. Esther had not made known her people nor her kindred. Mordecai had charged her that she should not tell. And Mordecai walked every day before the court of the house to know how Esther did and what would become of her. After that, it had been done to her according to the law for the women, 12 months. For so were the days of the anointing accomplished.
Okay, let's stop here. Mordecai put his cousin forward for this position. Mordecai kind of watched to see how things were going to go. And Esther, from the beginning, she didn't come in haughty. She came in with humbleness and respect. She respected the chamberlains, and it's working very well for her. It seems to be the customs of Babylon at this time to anoint the women for 12 months and make them ready for the king. You don't just walk in off the street and start coming before the king and presenting yourself. There's preparations that have to be made, and you have to be acceptable. And these are the things that are done to be acceptable, because everybody has their rules, and these are part of the rules, the governing rules, to be in the king's court as one of his concubines or even queen. So everyone is used to having some kind of order. And we need to think about that. We need to have some kind of order. Not saying we don't have order in the camps. It's not what I'm saying. But I'm just saying in general, it is to our benefit to be organized and have order. And it's a good thing because it makes things more uniform. It gives more accountability and less chaos. So continue, sister.
Middle of 12. For so were the days of the anointing accomplished, to wit, 6 months with oil and myrrh, and 6 months with sweet odors and with other ointments of the women. When then the maiden came unto the king, whatsoever she desired was given her to go with her out of the house of the women unto the king's house. In the evening she went, and on the morrow she returned into the second half of the women, to the custody of Shaashgaz, the king's chamberlain, who kept the concubines. She came in unto the king no more, except the king delighted in her, and she was called by name. Now when the turn of Esther, the daughter of Abigail, the uncle of Mordecai, who had taken her for his daughter, was come to go unto the king, she required nothing but what Haggai the king's chamberlain, the keeper of the women, appointed. And Esther obtained favor in the sight of all of them that looked upon her. So Esther was taken into King Ahasuerus, into his house royal in the 10th month, which is the month of Tebeth, in the 7th year of his reign. And the king loved Esther above all the women, and she obtained grace and favor in his sight, more than all the virgins, so that he set the royal crown upon her head and made her queen instead of Vashti.
Okay, sister, thank you. Okay, so of course, again, we find that Esther is a sister who is not trying to overstep herself. She's not trying to go outside of the rules and the responsibilities that's been given her. She is willing to work with others, like the king's chamberlain, who now she has obtained favor with. And they are talking, because people talk, they let you know, yeah, I like that. I like her. She's mannerable. She follows the rules. We don't have any problems with her, like some of the other people that are high maintenance and we can't handle them. They're just all over the place. And she's very respectful. And so that also gets the ear of the king. So now she's in and she has favor where she may not even knew it herself, but now she has favor. So she's on the right road for this position. Go right ahead, sister.
Esther chapter 2, verse 18. Then the king made a great feast unto all his princes and his servants, even Esther's feast, and he made a release to the provinces and gave gifts according to the bounty of the king. And when the virgins were gathered together the second time, and Mordecai sat in the king's gates, Esther had not yet made known her kindred nor her people, as Mordecai had charged her. For Esther did the commandment of Mordecai, like as when she was brought up with him. In those days, while Mordecai sat in the king's gate, 2 of the king's chamberlains, Bigthan and Teresh, of those that kept the door, were wroth and sought to lay hands on the king Ahasuerus. And the king became known to Mordecai, who told it unto Esther the queen. And Esther told the king thereof in Mordecai's name. And when inquisition was made of the matter, and it was found to be so, they were both hanged on a tree, and it was written in the book of the Chronicles before the king.
Okay, oh, hallelujah. Look at this. Esther, she listened to her uncle. And everything that he asked her to do, she did. They kept the fact that they were Israelites private. I'm sure they had good reason for it, being in another land, but it wasn't something that they necessarily had to, just throw out in front of everybody. Hey, listen, it's a blessing to be an Israelite, and it's an honor, and we should be proud of it, of course, but we also should be prudent and know what to do, when to do, how to do. Yes, the Most High is watching out for us, and he is protecting us in everything that we do, absolutely. But we don't have to say everything. We just do not have to do that. We have a lot of things that we can do in-house and do for ourselves. We have to be prudent enough to know when and when not, or how and how not to do something. And Esther knew that. Her cousin told her not to say anything, and she didn't say anything, and it worked to their benefit, because later it's going to be useful. But this could have stopped her from getting the position that she needed at the time. And they were not thinking at the time about Haman. At this time, they're thinking about being in a position of authority. So continue, sister. Thank you.
Chapter 3. After these things did King Ahasuerus promote Haman, the son of Hammedatha, the Agagite, and advanced him, and set his seat above all the princes that were with him. And all the king's servants that were in the king's gate bowed down and prostrated themselves before Haman, for the king had so commanded concerning him. But Mordecai bowed not down, nor prostrated himself before him. Then the king's servants with the king's gate said unto Mordecai, Why transgressest thou the king's commandment? Now it came to pass, when they spoke daily unto him, and he hearkened not unto them, that they told Haman, to see whether Mordecai's words would stand, for he had told them that he was a Jew. And when Haman saw that Mordecai bowed not down, nor prostrated him before him, then was Haman full of wrath. But it seemed contemptible in his eyes to lay hands on Mordecai alone, for they to destroy all the Jews that were throughout the whole kingdom of Ahasuerus, even the people of Mordecai. In the first month, which is the month of Nisan, in the 12th year of King Ahasuerus, they cast pur, that is the lot, before Haman from day to day, and from month to month, to the 12th month, which is month Adar. Okay. And Haman said unto King Ahasuerus.
Let's stop here. Now enters the villain, Haman. And we have a lot of villains in our life. We have a lot of people who hate us, which is one of the reasons why it is so obscene and unimaginable how we can hate each other and hate ourselves, because we don't have anyone but the Most High in each other. That's it. So this Haman has been promoted to over all the princes. I mean, he has a very, very, very high office, and he knows it. And this is a person who has no respect for life, from my point of view, especially for Israelites. And he doesn't appreciate what he already has. He's a greedy-minded person who feels that, oh yeah, I can get away with anything I want to get away with now that I'm in office, and I can do things the way I want to. And Mordecai sees that in him, is what I see. It doesn't say about some of the other things that have been brought up, and that could be true too, that he, worship all these false deities and different things. But him just being a wicked person is good enough. So I'm like, I understand Mordecai not wanting to bow down to this wicked person in the way that he was. Mordecai probably seen a lot of the things that he has done by him standing at that gate. It seems like a lot of stuff is happening at the gate. But go ahead, my sister.
Verse 8. And Haman said unto King Ahasuerus, there is a certain people scattered above the dispersed among the peoples in all the provinces of thy kingdom, and their laws are diverse from those of every people. Neither keep they the king's laws. Therefore it profiteth not the king to suffer them. If it please the king, let it be written that they be destroyed, and I will pay 10,000 talents of silver into the hands of those that have the charge of the king's business, to bring it into the king's. And the king took his ring from his hand and gave it unto Haman the son of Hammedatha, the Agagite and the Jews' enemy. And the king said unto Haman, the silver is given to thee, the people also, to do with them as seemeth good to thee. Then there were the king's scribes called in the first month, on the 13th day thereof. And there was written, according to all that Haman commanded, unto the king's satraps, and to the governors that were over every province, and to the princes of every people, to every province according to the writing thereof, and to every people after their language. In the name of King Ahasuerus was it written, and it was sealed with the king's ring. And letters were sent by post to all the king's provinces, to destroy, to slay, and to cause to perish all the Jews, both young and old, little children and women, in one day upon the 13th day of the 12th month, which is the month of Adar, and to take the spoil of them for a prey.
Okay. Haman, he did not just hate Mordecai, he hated all of us. I always like to talk in present tense because our past is our present and hopefully not our future. But if it happened to him, it happened to us. It happened to me. If it happened to you, it happened to you, it happened to me. That's how I see things. And this Haman, he has a plan, but Mordecai also has a strategy and a plan as well. That's now since we have Esther in office. But when Haman started doing these things, he was very crafty and sneaky, and he does like a lot of people do. They go behind folks' backs and they want to whisper in people's ears, and they want to give them whatever the best way to manipulate that they possibly can to get what they want. This is why a governing system and a system of checks and balances and investigation is so important, because that way we can always, to the best of our ability, get to the bottom of things, and innocent people not be looked at as the villains, because the villains are behind the scenes doing and saying and acting in any way that they want to act. at the time. And it doesn't matter what level they're on. It's not always the leader. Sometimes it's the guy in the middle. It might be the person, the girl on the bottom, you know, but we do have this amongst us. And so this is why a system is very important, I feel, for Israel. Okay. Go ahead, my sister.
Verse 14. The copy of the writing, to be given out for a decree in every province, was to be published unto all peoples, that they should be ready against that day. The post went forth in haste by the king's commandment, and the decree was given out in Shushan the castle, and the king and Haman sat down to drink, but the city of Shushan was perplexed. Chapter 4. Now when Mordecai knew all that was done, Mordecai rent his clothes and put on sackcloth and ashes, and went out into the midst of the city and cried with a loud and a bitter cry. And he came even before the king's gate, for none might enter within the king's gate clothed with sackcloth. And in every province, whithersoever the king's commandment and his decree came, there was great mourning among the Jews, and fasting, and weeping, and wailing, and many lay in sackcloth and ashes.
Okay. Mordecai, I really respect and like this brother. He cared. He cared about us. He cared about the Hebrew Israelites. He cared about his people. He put on sackcloth. He put on ashes. He cried out to the Most High and he prayed. He cared about us. He was worried. He was concerned. And this person was not the guy up on the high level. This was a guy that was just seems like he was pretty much an average guy, and he had like a security guard's job or something. You know, he was at the gate, and you know, but he cared when he heard that. And this decree went out to all of the provinces. You know, provinces are as big as large cities and states. That's a lot of territory. And this king ruled from India all the way to Ethiopia. That's 2 continents. It's a vast land of our people that our people were spread across. But the word went out, and what happened? We knew to start praying and fasting and crying out for our lives. Mordecai was just that kind of fellow. Love him. Continue, my sister.
Verse 4. And Esther's maidens and her chamberlains came and told it her, and the queen was exceedingly pained, and she sent raiment to clothe Mordecai, and to take his sackcloth from off him, but he accepted it not. Then called Esther of Hathach, one of the king's chamberlains, whom he had appointed to attend upon her, and charged him to go to Mordecai to know what this was and why it was.
Okay. So Esther, she cared about her uncle, but also she wanted to find out exactly what was going on and how it was affecting Mordecai, to the fact that he's out there in the sackcloth and not able to do his job, even though he was so wrought that he just refused. He was angry. He had emotions like everybody else. He was angry, which is something we all need to be angry about, is how we are treated nowadays, how we act, how we look, the things that we're going around doing. We need to be upset about the situation at hand. It is very grave. Continue, my sister.
Verse 6. So Hathach went forth to Mordecai unto the broad place of the city, which was before the king's gate. And Mordecai told him of all that had happened unto him, and the exact sum of the money that Haman had promised to pay to the king's treasuries for the Jews to destroy them. Also, he gave him the copy of the writing of the decree that was given out in Shushan to destroy them, to show it unto Esther, and to declare it unto her, and to charge her that she should go unto the king, to make supplication unto him, and to make request before him for her people. And Hathach came and told Esther the words of Mordecai. Then Esther spoke to Hathach and gave him a message unto Mordecai. All the king's servants and the people of the king's provinces do know that whosoever, whether man or woman, shall come unto the king into the inner court, who is not called, there is one law for him, that he be put to death, except such to whom the king shall hold out the golden scepter, that he may live. But I have not been called to come in unto the king these 30 days. And they told to Mordecai Esther's words. Then Mordecai bade them to return answer unto Esther. Think not with thyself that thou shalt escape in the king's house more than all the Jews. For if thou altogether holdest thy place at this time, then will relief and deliverance arise to the Jews from another place. But thou and thy father's house will perish. And who knoweth whether thou art not come to royal estate for such a time as this? Then Esther bade them return answer to Mordecai. Go, gather together all the Jews that are present in Shushan, and fast ye for me, and neither eat nor drink 3 days, night or day. I also and my maidens will fast in like manner, and so will I go in unto the king, which is not according to law. And if I perish, I perish. So Mordecai went his way and did according to all that Esther had commanded him.
Okay. Thank you. Now we're looking here, and Esther and Mordecai are able to talk and communicate with each other and able to come up with plan with each other to try and help the people. Mordecai gives Esther a command or tell her something that he wants her to do, and she reciprocates by letting him know what the rules are and what she can do in order to get some things done. But Mordecai is like, I'm worried now. Are you in this high position and now you're only thinking about yourself? But she lets him know, no, this is how things go and this is the way I have to do it. He didn't say, hey, look, listen to me. I'm the man around here. And this gonna go my way and no way. No, they listened to each other. They took each other's information into consideration, and then they came up with a plan. They work together. We must work together. That is key. We have to have some kind of strategy, a plan, things that we can do in order to get the things that we need as a people. And this is one of the ways that Mordecai and Esther went about getting the things that they needed to save our people. Genius. Go ahead.
Esther chapter 5, verse 1. Hallelujah. Now it came to pass on the 3rd day that Esther put on her royal apparel and stood in the inner court of the king's house, over against the king's house. And the king sat upon his royal throne in the royal house, over against the entrance of the house. And it was so, when the king saw Esther the queen standing in the court, that she obtained favor in his sight. And the king held out to Esther the golden scepter that was in his hand. So Esther drew near and touched the top of the scepter. Then said the king unto her, what wilt thou, Queen Esther? For whatever thy request, even to the half of the kingdom, it shall be given thee. And Esther said, if it seem good unto the king, let the king and Haman come to this day unto the banquet that I have prepared for him. Then the king said, Haman to make haste that it may be done as Esther have said. So the king and Haman came to the banquet that Esther had prepared. And the king said unto Esther at the banquet of wine, whatever thy petition, it shall be granted thee, and whatever thy request, even to the half of the kingdom, it shall be performed. Then answered Esther and said, my petition and my request is, if I have found favor in the sight of the king, and if it please the king to grant my petition and to perform my request, let the king and Haman come to the banquet that I shall prepare for them, and I will do tomorrow as the king have said.
Okay, thank you. In our society, we have had a lot of people that the Most High has raised up to help us to navigate through all of the hatred and all of the wickedness that has been done, especially here in America. And I can only imagine what has happened in South America and some of these other places where our people are scattered. But here, the Most High has raised up, we're going to talk about some of the sisters, Angela Davis, Harriet Tubman, Sojourner Truth, the list goes on and on as to sisters who have stepped up to the plate to help us, to bring us from one end of just a painful and devastating situation to another, even down to our very own mothers. You know, this country has not been very kind and very favorable to us. Everything that we have had to fight for. Everything that we've had to earn on our own. And we have to be better and above everybody else in order to get any kind of recognition for the things that we have done. The Most High has blessed us in allowing us to be successful in these things, from the abolitionist movement to emancipation, to the fighting of Jim Crow, to the civil rights movements and the people that was raised up to that, to the people's movement, which is known, quote unquote, as the Black Power movement, which that is not what it actually was. It was the people's movement. To what we're dealing with today. These situations keep coming back and forth on us. It keeps coming back. But the Most High continues to raise people up. It may not be the people that we necessarily think of ourselves as being the right person, but the Most High knows better than we do. And he's always going to raise up the right man and woman with the heart to carry out the duties and the job. I feel that our time has come and that the Most High is working some stuff in this world that these people are not ready for. I know I'm not ready for it. I'm like, ooh, but I do trust in God and I trust in our people. We have some awesome people in Israel. I mean, brilliance from our young people that's coming up, that's standing up now, that are speaking out, that are speaking on all of these different issues, to our people in that provide us with inspiration through the music and different things like that. And as a matter of fact, just let me say, I don't have anything against the young brothers and sisters that rap. Okay, all right, I like a little bit of everything. I don't like everything, but I like a little bit of everything. So I'm chill on all of that. But the point is, we are a people who are capable of so much greatness. And this is the reason why people take all of their sorcerous time to do everything they possibly can to hold us back, to keep us in depressive states, doubtful states, and things like that, not letting us be good to each other, allowing that everything that we see is put out there to keep us fighting amongst each other, angry amongst each other. And these things are done for a purpose, because when we are on the same page and we are one together, there is nothing that we cannot do, and nothing that the Most High will not help us with in our righteousness, as so many of our good brothers have said, in our righteousness. And they know that. One of the main reasons why I see, from what I see, from what I have gleaned from our history, one of the main reasons why we were so successful in the civil rights movement is because we were the innocent party. We looked innocent, we behaved innocently, and it was nothing that they can do. When the cameras rolled, they saw nothing but some crazy monsters out there treating some decent, innocent Hebrews like dogs. And all of that made a difference. We had people that was willing to stand up for us and to take the hits if necessary. And it was across party lines. And when I say that, it was people from all different walks of life that was willing to help us. So when I see this story here, it reminds me of all of that. And I just want us to be encouraged by what's going on here, because we have the fight between Haman and Mordecai, but Haman and Mordecai represents the good and the bad and the systems that we're dealing with in our lives even today. As the Most High say, there's nothing new under the sun. So continue, my sister.
Verse 9. Then went Haman forth that day, joyful and glad of heart. But when Haman saw Mordecai in the king's gate, that he stood not up, nor moved for him, Haman was filled with wrath against Mordecai. Nevertheless, Haman refrained himself and went home, and he sent and fetched his friends and Zeresh his wife. And Haman recounted unto them the glory of his riches and his multitude of his children, and everything as to how the king had promoted him, and how he had advanced him above the princes and servants of the king. Haman said, moreover, yea, Esther the queen did not let no man come in with the king unto the banquet that she had prepared by myself. And tomorrow also I invited by her together with the king. Yet all this availeth me nothing, so as long as I see Mordecai, the Hebrew, sitting at the king's gate. Then said Zeresh his wife and all his friends unto him, let a gallows be made of 50 cubits high, and in the morning speak thou unto the king, that Mordecai may be hanged thereon. Then go thou in merrily with the king unto the banquet. And the thing pleased Haman, and he caused the gallows to be made. Chapter 7. So the king and Haman came to the banquet with Esther the queen. And the king said unto Esther, on the second day.
I thought we was at chapter 6.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I skipped, I'm sorry.
No.
Chapter 6,
problem.
yes. On that night could not the king sleep, and he commanded the book of records of the chronicles, and they were read before the king. And it was found written that Mordecai had told of Bigthana and Teresh, two of the king's chamberlains, of those that kept the door, who had sought to lay hands on the king Ahasuerus. And the king said, what honor and dignity have been done to Mordecai for this? Then said the king's servants that ministered unto him, there is nothing done for him. And the king said, who is in the court? Now Haman was come unto the outer court of the king's house to speak unto the king, to hang Mordecai on the gallows that he had prepared for him. And the king's servants said unto him, behold, Haman standeth in the court. And the king said, let him come in. So Haman came in, and the king said unto him, what shall be done unto the man whom the king delighteth to honor? Now Haman said in his heart, whom would the king delight to honor besides myself? And Haman said unto the king, for the man whom the king delighteth to honor, let royal apparel be brought which the king useth to wear, and the horse that the king rideth upon, and on whose head a crown royal is set. And let the apparel and the horse be delivered to the hand of one of the king's most noble princes, that they may array the man therewith whom the king delighteth to honor, and cause him to ride on horseback through the street of the city, and proclaim before him, thus shall it be done to the man whom the king delighteth to honor. Then the king said to Haman, make haste, and take the apparel and the horse, and thou hast said, and do even so to Mordecai the Jew, that sitteth in the king's gate. Let nothing fail of all that thou hast spoken.
Okay. Wow. Praise the Most High Yah. The Most High has a really, really interesting sense of humor. But even though the Most High is not speaking directly in this chapter, he is in all things. So he is definitely in this, because the irony of the situation that Mordecai and Haman is, like I said before, he is somebody who is not appreciative. He does not appreciate the job that he had. He's very greedy, and very self-centered, and everything is all about him. And it is, every time he does something, it's kind of turning back on him now. And Mordecai is a very unassuming person that's not trying to seek anything out except for to make sure that his people and his life is peaceful. And he's doing the things he needs to do in righteousness, and the Most High is blessing him for that. And one thing is, with Mordecai, I feel that even if you don't like a person, even if you don't agree with people's policies and ways, you still have to be right and do the right thing yourself, because that is how the Most High's people have been commanded to do. We do right even if we don't like you. We do right even if you're not our favorite, we ain't cool, or whatever. We still must do righteousness. And Mordecai is that type of guy, and now we see benefits of that. Go ahead, sister. Thank you.
Verse 11. Then took Haman the apparel and the horse, and arrayed Mordecai, and caused him to ride through the street of the city, and proclaimed before him, thus shall it be done unto the man whom the king delighteth to honor. And Mordecai returned to the king's gate, but Haman hasted to his house, mourning and having his head covered. And Haman recounted unto Zeresh his wife and all his friends everything that had befallen him. Then said his wise men and Zeresh his wife unto him, if Mordecai, before whom thou hast begun to fall, be of the seed of the Hebrews, thou shalt not prevail against him, but shalt surely fall before him. While they were yet talking with him, came the king's chamberlains and hastened to bring Haman unto the banquet that Esther had prepared. Chapter 7. So the king and Haman came to banquet with Esther the queen. And the king said unto Esther on the second day at the banquet of wine, whatever thy petition, Queen Esther, it shall be granted thee, and whatever thy request, even to the half of the kingdom, it shall be performed. Then Esther the queen answered and said, if I have found favor in thy sight, O king, and if it please the king, let my life be given me at my petition, and my people at my request. For we are sold, I and my people, to be destroyed, to be slain and to perish. But if we had been sold for bondmen and for bondwomen, I had held my peace, for the adversary is not worthy that the king be endamaged.
Okay, let's stop there. Ooh-wee. I don't know about you guys, but Esther was willing to give her life for our people. I don't know how many of us can say the same. She didn't know all these people. She didn't know maybe the guy around the corner, the lady up the street. She did not know these people. Neither did Mordecai, but we were all Israel. And they did not want to see any of us die. And she went through all of this. She could have kept her mouth shut. She could have stayed in the background and just, been a good queen and not put herself forward. But she petitioned the Most High with prayer and fasting. That's something that my grandparents used to do. Did any of your parents used to do that? Prayer and fasting, prayer and fasting, prayer and fasting? That's something I'm going to work on, is the fasting part. I pray all the time, but sometimes I'm like, I just can't get with the fasting, and I need to fast more. But these are, the Most High left these things on record for us to use. These are answers. This is guidance, the instructions. These are the answers to the questions. And to see Mordecai and his ward, his charge to do these things on behalf of all the Israelites in the other provinces and everywhere that they were, it's encouraging. It's encouraging. We need to be close. We need to, have that bond together. When we have our unity celebrations, hey guys, as many of us can get together, need to get together. It's a good thing. It's always a wonderful thing, like the Most High said, for brothers to dwell together in unity. So thank you. Move on, sister. Thank you.
Verse 5. Then spoke the king Ahasuerus and said unto Esther the queen, Who is he, and where is he, that does presume in his heart to do so? And Esther said, An adversary and an enemy, even this wicked Haman. Then Haman was terrified before the king and the queen. And the king arose in his wrath from the banquet of wine and went into the palace garden. But Haman remained to make request for his life to Esther the queen, for he saw that there was evil determined against him by the king. Then the king returned out of the palace garden into the place of the banquet of wine, and Haman was fallen upon the couch whereon Esther was. Then said the king, Will he even force the queen before me in the house? As the word went out of the king's mouth, they covered Haman's face. Then said Harbona, one of the chamberlains that were before the king, Behold also, the gallows 50 cubits high, which Haman have made for Mordecai, who speak good for the king, standeth in the house of Haman. And the queen said, Hang him thereon. So they hanged Haman on the gallows that he had prepared for Mordecai. Then was the king's wrath assuaged.
Okay. Well, Haman, you brought it on yourself, my man. You brought it on yourself. Because if you would have been satisfied with where you were, you'd have been good. But you wanted to mess with the Most High's people, and the Most High had some righteous people that fasted and prayed for him, for us. But anyway, Queen Esther, she was not the type of person to just run around and just tell the king, hey, look, you need to do this, you need to do that. She came at the position with favor. She showed the king how much she cared about him. She made sure that that he understood her value. And then she brought him the information, and she brought it out through strategy, her and Mordecai. Yes, I'm an Israelite. These are my people that they are trying to destroy. If you love me, spare my people. Now the king is upset and Haman is in trouble. So, we can take those kind of things with us today, the things that we need to do, and we can yes, we're in a war. We know we're in a war, but we do not have to be in a derogatory mood all the time. We can use strategy to work with people to get things done, the things that we need, the things that are going to benefit us as a people. You know how we always see the guys standing out on the corner. I haven't seen it lately, but they were out there for a long time, you know, derogatory conversations and yelling at people and doing all those different things and talking down to everybody and stuff. And then it turns around when the powers that be gets out the rod. Now here we are looking around trying to figure out who is going to stand with us to do the things that we need to do to get done. So Esther is a good example of this. The book of Esther is a good example of using strategy and being able to get your point across in a way where it makes people want to help instead of want to be your enemy. So I think this is very helpful here. And so long, Haman. Sorry about that, but you know, it's us or you. So I'll go ahead, sister.
Esther chapter 8, verse 1. On that day did King Ahasuerus give the house of Haman the Hebrew, singing unto Esther the queen. And Mordecai came before the king, for Esther had told what he was unto her. And the king took off his ring, which he had taken from Haman, and gave it unto Mordecai. And Esther set Mordecai over the house of Haman. And Esther spoke yet again before the king, and fell down at his feet, and besought him with tears to put away the mischief of Haman the Agagite, and his device that he had devised against the Hebrews. Then the king held out to Esther the golden scepter. So Esther rose and stood before the king. And she said, If it please the king, and if I have found favor in his sight, and the thing seem right before the king, and I be pleasing in his eyes, let it be written to reverse the letters devised by Haman, the son of Hammedatha, the Agagite, which he wrote to destroy the Hebrews that are in all the king's provinces. For how can I endure to see the evil that shall come upon my people? Or how can I endure to see the destruction of my kindred? Then the king Ahasuerus said unto Esther the queen, and to Mordecai the Hebrew, Behold, I have given Esther the house of Haman, and him they have hanged upon the gallows, because he laid his hand upon the Hebrews. Write ye also concerning the Hebrews, as it liketh you, in the king's name, and seal it with the king's ring. For the writing which is written in the king's name, and sealed with the king's ring, may no man reverse. Then there were the king's scribes called at that time, in the 3rd month, which is the month of Sivan, on the 23rd day thereof. And it was written according to all that Mordecai commanded concerning the Hebrews, even to the satraps and the governors and princes of the provinces, which are from India unto Ethiopia, 127 provinces, unto every province, according to the writing thereof, and unto every people after their language, and to the Hebrews according to their writing, and according to their language. And they wrote in the name of King Ahasuerus, and sealed it with the king's ring, and sent letters by post on horseback, riding on swift steeds that were used in the king's service, bred of the stud. That the king had granted the Hebrew that were in every city to gather themselves, and to stand for their life, to destroy, and to slay, and to cause to perish all the forces of the people and province that would assault them, their little one and women, and to take the spoil of them for prey. Upon one day in all the provinces of King Ahasuerus, namely, upon the 13th day of the 12th month, which is the month of Adar, the copy of the writing, to be given out for decree in every province, was to be published unto all the peoples, and that the Hebrews should be ready against that day to avenge themselves on their enemies.
Okay. Okay. All right. So Haman is dead, and Esther is still stepping in between the breach for our people. She's still trying to get that wicked law overturned. And so since the king loves her now because of her character and the way she behaves as a woman, the way she carries herself, now he's willing to write a second decree that will allow us to fight for ourselves. And there's many ways that we can fight for ourselves. And here we fought with the sword, which is good. You know, I'm all for the sword, all right? But also we have to use our minds and use our influence. But I really like the way that she went to the king and she made sure that when he was asking her what she needed, she knew what she needed. Listen, I want you to overturn this wicked rule so that my people can live. And it's all about the people. Of course, yeah, not just her, but everybody. And I keep wanting to say this. I know I've said it again before, but I'm saying it again. We have to care about one another, because what happens to you happens to me. And when this letter went out to all the different prophecies, 127 prophecies, that's a lot of that. Yeah, that's a whole lot of letters going out to a whole lot of people in a whole lot of places. But the Israelites were all over. They were all over. And by us being able to beseech the king, we're able to galvanize ourselves. Even though we're not next door to each other, we're able to operate in unison. We're able to get some things done as a group. Okay, this guy is over here on the corner. Okay, he said something yesterday. I didn't appreciate that. He did some stuff that he wasn't supposed to do, and it was disrespectful. I ain't never going to speak to him again. That has to have some, you have to weigh the balance. Is that everything that we can do? Is that automatically necessary to just cut them off automatically? Or can we work with them still in some situations? We have to be able to have some kind of, we need alliances. We need more alliances than we need enemies. And I'm sure that everybody didn't get along here. I'm sure that different provinces had their specialities and things that they did a certain way. But when it came down to the things that mattered, they were able to come together. And listen, this is not me talking to D.C.B. because I love D.C.B. But let me just say this. I am speaking to us as a whole, the same way that these people are speaking to everybody as a whole in this book. I don't care where you are in the world. I'm speaking to all of us together. If we are Israel, if we really believe that we are Israelites, then we should have some unification. We should be able to communicate across and talk with each other and work with each other to get the things done. If you're in Pacific camps and you know that things are needed, come on, we need you. Step up to the plate in your camp and do whatever you can do to help the camp, to help your people. If you got a new idea, try to bring it out. Even fight for it. I believe in fighting my corner. Don't nobody always agree with me, you know. That's Havared. Oh man. Oh, hey, okay, that's all right. That's all right. But I'm still here. I still care, and I'm do the best that I can do. I can't do everything. Nope. That's the Most High's job, and other people have their parts in that. But I can do my part, and I'm just saying, we need you. We need everybody. Everybody. The Most High has given everybody something to contribute, you know, and we need that something, and that might be that one little piece of the puzzle to put everything together. That might be just what we need. So, you know, even if you're online, there's things you can do even online to be part of your community. It's a blessing to belong to something. I know that I'm not saying that people haven't gone through things. Lord knows, the Most High, that I have gone through things, but I refuse to give up. And I'm hoping that my words will get through to you. Don't give up. Reach out to each other. If you know that you have congregants online that are there every week, you know, give them a phone call every night. Or, hey, what's up? I just want to say how you doing. Don't be afraid to give your phone number out to your community or the people that you worship with. Be more afraid to give it out to the stores and the chats online and stuff that, you know, put your information out there on spam and scam and all of those other different things. But we need each other, whether we admit it or not, maybe, or whether we like it or not. We need each other, and I know that only good can come out of us caring about each other. So go ahead, sister. Thank you.
Esther chapter 8, verse 14. So the post that rode upon swift steeds that were used in the king's service went out, being hastens and pressed on by the king's commandment. And the decree was given out in Shushan the castle.
Wait a minute. Did we finish this chapter?
Yes, she did.
Okay, thank you. All right.
We're on verse 15 right now.
Okay, good.
And Mordecai went forth from the presence of the king in royal apparel of blue and white, and with a great crown of gold, and with a robe of fine linen and purple. And the city of Shushan shouted and was glad. The Hebrews had light and gladness and joy and honor. And in every province and in every city, wheresoever the king's commandment and his decree came, the Hebrews had gladness and joy, a feast and a good day. And many from among the peoples of the land became Hebrews, for the fear of the Hebrews was fallen upon them.
Okay. When we're at our best and we're able to do what the Most High has put innate within us to do, we convert the soul. That's who we are. We convert the soul. So I don't want to take credit for all of this nastiness and stuff that's out there in the world, but yeah, we're part of that too. So like I hear so many good brothers saying and good sisters saying, you know, we have to be aware of the energy that we put out there and the things that we do, because we are influencers. And we are. But look at all the people who were not even Israelites who converted to the faith. And it's because they saw the benefit. And I know it's one person that know I always use that word. You know who you are. Israelites, like any other group, people who are skeptical want to be able to see the benefit. The Most High showed us the benefit when he brought us out of the land. He showed us the benefit of being an Israelite. He showed us his power, what he could do, what we would receive in return, all of the peace and blessings that would come upon us for being obedient and doing righteousness. And it's the same with us today in our communities. I like that word more than camp, but yeah, that's just me. But in our communities, when people see us, they should see the benefit of being an Israelite. And what I mean by that is how we carry ourselves, how we interact with each other, the things that we do for each other. Those should be the things that people see more than anything else. I don't want to just come out the house, roll out the bed, hair all over my head, dress up to the yin yangs, dress down to the ding dings, and everybody like, she who? You know, cursing or being loud and out of control and all of those different things, angry all the time, got a snarling remark for somebody all the time, very petty and all that kind of stuff. No, that's not no benefit there. That's all in the negative. We're positive people because we always asking for something positive. We always wanted something positive. So why don't we show the benefit, the glory of the Most High through us, the glory. So go on, my sister.
Esther chapter 9, verse 1. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Now in the 12th month, which is the month of Adar, on the 13th day of the same, when the king's commandment and his decree drew near to be put in execution, in the day that the enemies of the Hebrews hoped to have rule over them, whereas it was turned to the contrary, that the Hebrews had rule over them that hated them. The Hebrews gathered themselves together in their cities throughout all the provinces of King Ahasuerus to lay hand on such as sought their hurt, and no man could withstand them, for the fear of them was fallen upon all the peoples. And all the princes of the provinces, and the satraps, and the governors, and they that did the king's business, helped the Hebrews, because the fear of Mordecai was fallen upon them. For Mordecai was great in the king's house, and his fame went forth throughout all the provinces. For the man Mordecai waxed greater and greater. And the Hebrews smote all their enemies with the stroke of the sword, and with slaughter and destruction, and did what they would unto them that hated them. And in Shushan, the castle, the Hebrews slew and destroyed 500 men. And Pashandatha, and Dalpan, and Aspatha, and Paratha, and Adalia, and Aridatha, and Pasmatha, and Arisai, and Aridai, and Vezatha. Sorry if I mispronounce the words, please.
You're doing great, sister. Keep going.
10 tons of Haman, the son of Adatha, the Hebrews' enemy, slew they, but on the spoil they had laid not their hand. And on that day, the number of those that was slain in Shushan, the castle, was brought before the king. And the king said to Esther the queen, the Hebrews have slain and destroyed 500 men in Shushan the castle, and the 10 sons of Haman. What have they done in the rest of the king's provinces? Now whatever thy petition, it shall be granted thee, and whatever thy request further, it shall be done. Then said Esther, if it please the king, let it be granted to the Hebrews that are in Shushan to do tomorrow, also according unto this day's decree, and let Haman's 10 sons be hanged upon the gallows.
Okay.
And the king.
Okay, so she's keeping Torah because we're supposed to get rid of our enemies. They have to go. I mean, people that's threatening our lives, they got to go. Okay. It's threatening our way of life. You got to go. But also in this chapter, I mean, in this chapter of the book, you can also see how Mordecai was favored more and more and more because of his character, because of who he was as a person. And we were victorious. The Most High gave us victory, gave us favor, because what? We worked together. When those letters went out, everybody fell in line. Everybody knew what they needed to do. They prepared and they were ready for the battle, to the point whereas the enemy was like, wait a minute, this is not going to be an easy fix right here. This is not going to be us swooping in, doing some Russia type stuff, or some of the other things that happened, like during the civil rights movement, them putting the dogs and the water hoses on us and stuff like that. Yeah. We were a united front all across the board. We didn't get the letter and say, oh, what are you talking about? Oh, ain't nobody got time for that. Well, I'm having dinner right now. What? No, everybody worked together. Everybody was ready for the battle. And we need to prepare ourselves today for whatever's coming down the road. It doesn't matter what that is. We have so many things that we need to address. The list is very long, but we can start with those that are going to be in need of jobs, because things are going to change as these people start coming over from other places during these war-torn countries, as well as people that are coming from people looking for a better life. It's only so much to go around. We have to start preparing in advance. We cannot wait until things happen and then start saying, oh, well, we need to do, because now we're behind the 8 ball trying to catch up. We should start putting things in place now for ourselves, for our people, the best way we can. We have brilliant minds out there. If you know how to do certain things, please step forward. We can use your help. We need you. The Most High will bless you even if we can't do much. The Most High will bless you beyond repair, okay? Because I've seen it happen. The Most High is a miracle worker, and he loves mercy. He loves compassion. He loves generosity. He loves all that, and he loves to give it. He loves to give it to those who love to give. So Isaiah 58, that's exactly what it's telling us. That's what it's telling us. This is how we get atonement. This is how we get mercy. This is how we get blessings, by doing that to each other, by giving. So go ahead, sister.
Verse 14. And the king commanded it to be done, and a decree was given out in Shushan, and they hanged Haman's 10 sons. And the Hebrews that were in Shushan gathered themselves together on the 14th day also of the month of Adar, and slew 300 men in Shushan. But on the spoil they laid not their hand. And the other Hebrews that were in the king's provinces gathered themselves together and stood for their lives, and had rest from their enemies, and slew of them that hated them 75,000. But on the spoil they laid not their hand. And on the 13th day of the month of Adar, and on the 14th day of the same, they rested, and made it a day of feasting and gladness. But the Hebrews that were in Shushan assembled together on the 13th day thereof, and on the 14th thereof, and on the 15th day of the same, they rested, and made it a day of feasting and gladness. Therefore, do the Hebrews of the villages that dwell in the unwalled towns make the 14th day of the month Adar a day of gladness and feasting, and a good day, and of sending portions one to another. And Mordecai wrote these things, and sent letters unto all the Hebrews that were in all the provinces of the king Ahasuerus, both nigh and far.
Okay, let's stop right here. Purim. For many years, I've had, in my family, I had two sides. I had the devout Christians and the devout Muslims. And each one of them, of course, had their special day. And we all know what that day is on the Christian side, at least. But also, the Muslims had a special day as well, where they did things like that. And when I came into being an Israelite, when I was blessed with the knowledge of being an Israelite, the first thing that was asked of me by someone is, we're not going to be keeping these days anymore. And I said, well, sweetheart, let's look at this. What do you think we should do? It's right here in the book. We've been trying these other things out and it's not working, and the things that we're doing is not what the Most High is asking us to do now that we know better, So I never did think about Purim. I didn't, it just never, I read the story, I read the story, but I did not really ingest the story to actually understand what was actually being said here. Know that I understand it's not a commandment, but it is an acceptability from the Most High. And the reason why I say it's an acceptability from the Most High is because it's something that he left on record for us. It's actually in the book. Everything in the book, according to my understanding, is important and valuable. So he left this on record, this whole story about us fighting for ourselves, about us strategizing, about us going into other lands as, as captives or what have you, and making the most out of the life that we have, seeking peace, and doing all those things which the Most High has told us to do when we are in captivity, seek peace. And it doesn't mean be a doormat to anybody and let them do anything that they want to do. Absolutely the opposite, but it's how we carry ourselves that's so important. How we treat each other is so important, and how we make friends amongst our enemies, that's so important. If it's an opportunity to do so, don't waste your opportunities. And here with our people fighting for their lives and winning and converting people, that means that those people become a part of our group, become a part of our allies, become a part of what we're about. Now we have even more, more people on our side, as well as us taking care of each other, giving out gifts to the sister said, sending portions one to another. Yes, but it also says giving gifts to the poor. So this is a perfect time if you haven't had a chance to do so already. I know we have a large campaign going here at D.C.B to help the poor, and I'm very pleased with that. I know that some of the other groups out there also have programs going right now, and it's all wonderful to see everybody's work. But even on an individual basis, those who have given to us, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. All that you do for us. Our people work hard in these camps, trying to show the best of who they are, and that the best that they can do. But even if you're in your community, your block, your neighborhood or something, and someone that's not going to bust you in the head or rob your house or whatever, but if you can help them out in a little bit of way, keep some clothes in the car, whatever. Now is a perfect time. This is Purim, and a time for us to celebrate. This is a civil celebration. It's not a holy celebration. It's a civil celebration, which means that we can maybe let our hair down a little bit more, and enjoy each other's company, and laughing and joking and silliness and all that good stuff that that make people have good memories. So sharing with one another. I wish I was at D.C.B to get some of that good food. I love the food that's being cooked down there on the holy days. I can't get enough of it. Next time, if I'm blessed to come, I'm going to bring me a container, and I'm going to put some extra in. So y'all just be warned, because I can do that. But anyway, giving, sending portions one to another. Okay, we don't have to have no Christmas trees, guys. All that's out. We don't need that. We don't have to have no ho, ho, ho in the rolling. We don't have to have none of that silliness that these people are doing just to make money for these corporations. But we can do stuff on our own, send things to people, do good works for each other, and let each other know that we care. That is what galvanizes us. That is what makes us a family, letting each other know that we care. So it says here that there was from the 13th day to the 15th day, the people rested and fasted, and they had gladness. Of course, they were glad for their lives, like all of us are. We should be, because nothing is promised. But also on the 14th day, in Shushan, we had a big celebration. So if you can, blow it out. Look, you probably can't see this, but I made myself some Tov, Shabbat, Shalom, Purim. I made myself a nice little, some little, memorabilia to go around. And I'm putting something on the outside of the house this year. I wasn't able to do it before. And every time I go to the store, I can never find anything. So I made this myself. And, do whatever it is you do to show your graciousness, your gratefulness, and your pride in what the Most High has given you is Purim. Okay, go ahead, my sister.
Verse 21, to enjoin them that they should keep the 14th day of the month Adar and the 15th day of the same yearly, the days wherein the Hebrews had rest from their enemies, and the month which was turned unto them from sorrow to gladness, and from mourning into a good day. And they should make them days of feasting and gladness, and of sending portions one to another, and gifts to the poor. And the Hebrews took upon them to do as they had begun, and as Mordecai had written unto them. Because Haman, the son of Hammedatha, the Agagite, the enemy of all the Hebrews, had devised against the Hebrews to destroy them, and to cast pur, that is the lot, to discomfit them, and to destroy them. But when she came before the king, he commanded by letters that his wicked device, which he had devised against the Hebrews, should return upon his own head, and that he and his sons should be hanged on the gallows. Wherefore they call these days Purim, after the name of Pur. Because of all the words of this letter, and of all that which they had seen concerning this matter, and that which had come unto them, the Hebrews ordained and took upon them, and upon their seed, and upon all such as joined themselves unto them, so as it should not fail, that they would keep these 2 days according to the writing thereof, and according to the appointed time thereof, every year. And that these days should be remembered and kept throughout every generation, every family, every province, and every city. And that these days of Purim should not fail from among the Hebrews, nor the memorial of them perish from their seed. Then Esther the queen, the daughter of Abiel, and Mordecai the Jew, wrote down all the acts of power to confirm this second letter of Purim. And he sent letters unto all the Hebrews, to the 127 provinces of King Ahasuerus, with words of peace and truth, to confirm these days of Purim in their appointed times, according as Mordecai the Hebrew and Esther the queen had enjoined them, and as they had ordained for themselves and for their seed, the matters of the fastings and their cry. And the commandment of Esther confirmed these matters of Purim, and it was written in the book.
Wow.
Chapter 10. And the king Ahasuerus laid a tribute unto the land and upon the isles of the sea, and all the acts of his power and of his might, and the full account of the greatness of Mordecai, how the king advanced him. Are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of King of Media and Persia? For Mordecai the Hebrew was next unto King Ahasuerus, and great among the Hebrews, and accepted of the multitude of his brethren, seeking the good of his people, and speaking peace to all his seed. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. Hallelujah. And seeking peace and speaking peace to all his seed, and speaking peace to the multitude of his brethren. and seeking good of his people. You know, hallelujah. That's all they can say is hallelujah, you know. What a wonderful story the Most High has left on record for us, a history of our people, and a way for us to have some pride and enjoyment in this particular time, in this particular season. Everybody else has their way of raising things up, and we don't have to be like them. The Most High has left it all here for us. Okay, you want to celebrate, you want to give gifts, I got something for y'all. Hey, here's Purim. Okay, it's out there for you. And it's a civil celebration, so you don't have to feel like you're not doing it the right way. And also, look at the story. Remember the story of us taking care of each other and caring about each other, caring for each other. When we're working, we are worker bees. We are worker ants. We're in it for the win. We're in it for the win, family. We're in it for the win. And hey, we can do it. And they know we can do it. They know that we can do it. Everybody has something to give. Don't think that you're not special. Don't think that you don't have something good to offer. You have something good to offer. Look at our young people. Genius, genius. They know it's genius. That's why they're trying to riddle you up and ACDC, whatever that stuff well, I might not be saying it right. I don't mean it in a derogatory manner. But you know, they throw everything they can on us to keep us back. And I say, forget about them. We got our own thing. All we got to do is get started and do what we need to do. Well, I want to thank Chief Prince Yisrael and for allowing me to speak today. I pray that my words were encouraging and a blessing and not a curse to anyone, and that I said what is good and true and not gave of my own personal understanding to lead anybody astray. And I pray for mercy, and I pray for compassion from the Most High in this matter. And also, I thank Chief Uziel for pushing me to this. I love you, Chief Uziel. Even though we don't get along all the time, I love you. And all the best to everyone within the sound of my voice all over the world. May the Most High bless you. And thank you very much. Shalom.
Bless you. Hallelujah.
Thank the reader who was helped. Interruption.
And love to my husband Adon Zamir in the back. May the Most High God bless you all. And Chief Uziel loves you back. We all love him. She said, even though we don't always get along all the time. That's our family. You know, that's family. That it is what it is.